Hello, welcome to our webinar today. My name is Medina Coates and I am with STEM Education Works. And today we have Michaela Baruch from Ozobot here to share all of her amazing wisdom and knowledge. And I'm looking forward today to learning myself what Ozobot has to offer. So welcome, Michaela.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're so glad to have you. And again, looking forward to learning more about Ozobot.
All right. Should I jump right in?
Yes, I think that'd be great.
Let's do it. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Cool. So happy to be here with all of you. And today I will be talking about one of Ozobot's newest and most exciting products, our hands-on kits. We have two kits that I'll be talking about today, our engineering kit and our Math Fluency Kit. And I will say that this is one of the most magical and entertaining projects that our team has taken on in a while. And I think the reason why we've enjoyed creating these kits so much is because so many teachers and longtime users of Ozobot have told us, this is how I've been using Ozobot or how I've always wanted to use it for years. So thank you for providing the lessons and the structure and the ideas to make it happen. And so today, we're going to cover a couple things related to these kits. We'll talk about just the purpose, why we made them, and the approach, our curricular approach within them. I will share a little bit about how each lesson is structured, and then also provide some very quick instructional tips so that you as educators can get the very most out of using them. But first of all, what is Ozobot? So for anyone who's here today that is not familiar, Ozobot is a very compact, we like to say it's a friendly robot, and it's a K-12 education coding device. It's very accessible, very easy to use. Our robots are very much built specifically for educators and for learners, and our platform is an award-winning robotics and curriculum aligned with standards across grades and across subjects. And there are two ways that students can code with Ozobot. We have two bots, Evo and Ari, and with both robots, you can program them both screen-free with color codes, and via a block-based programming tool, either Ozobot Blockly or a new platform, the Ozobot Editor. So that's a little bit of broad overview of how Ozobot works. And one of Ozobot's core beliefs is that coding is so much more than the marker or the blocks that you have students use. It's really about creativity and the kind of thinking that students do when they are programming. And it is that same belief that inspired our engineering and math fluency kits. And so here's a little bit about why we made them. So we made these kits to do what STEM educators already do so well, which is to spark curiosity, help students make meaning through hands-on learning. Each of our kits takes core concepts, core subjects, and turns them into really tangible experiences where students are building, testing, and iterating in ways that feel really authentic and really engaging. We often hear from teachers that the ed tech that they find in their closets or that are purchased on behalf of their school can feel really disconnected from the realities of their everyday, day-to-day teaching. And that's really why we made this specific product, is we wanted to have a way for educators to bridge the robots that they have with their core instruction, and just amplify their core instruction with our robots by making it more engaging and fun to do. So we were really thinking about spiral review of core concepts when we made these kits. So at the most basic level, here's what these kits are. They're sets of lessons designed to teach core content with Ozobot Evo or Ari playing an active role in the learning. Both the engineering and math fluency kits come in two grade bands, K2, and 3-5. And each kit includes 10 lessons per grade level. Both kits include student materials. In the Math Fluency Kit, each grade level comes with a set of math manipulatives with one complete set provided for 6 students total. The engineering kit contains the consumables that students need for their design solutions, such as pipe cleaners, popsicle sticks, straws, cardstock. And if you already own a classroom set of EVOs, you can purchase a math or an engineering kit without bots. Or if you don't yet have EVOs or REs, you can purchase a kit that is bundled with a 6-pack of either bot. And if you choose that option, your kit will also come with one set of color code markers to pair with every robot. And one quick important note, is that our Math Fluency Kit works with both RE, our newest robot, and EVO, whereas the engineering kit is an EVO-only kit. Each kit comes with enough materials for 6 students. So in our minds, that setup is perfect for small group instruction, but it also just makes it really flexible for a variety of settings. So teachers can use them in classroom centers, for targeted intervention groups. They could use them in after school and enrichment programs, or you can purchase multiple kits to have enough for an entire class. The structure just really works wherever you need a focused, hands-on experience with math or engineering. And finally, each kit has a teacher guide that contains everything that teachers need to get started on their instruction. It includes a comprehensive overview of EVO or RE. It includes pacing guides. It includes a lot of instruction for teachers on how to structure lessons, how to align with standards, and of course, in-depth lesson plans for every lesson. And so now we're going to take a deep dive into the engineering kit specifically. So the focus of the engineering kit is grade level NGSS aligned engineering challenges that really get to the heart of both engineering practices and science content. So in each challenge in this kit, students use Ozobot EVO as the model for their design build. So each lesson is built around a few core elements. We follow the engineering design process, and we always start with a driving question. The driving question is written in kid-friendly language. It's tied directly to a science or engineering idea that students are already learning in their grade level content, and it's grounded in real science phenomena. So students are starting curious with something that they have already learned about in science, and really understanding how that concept shows up in the world around them. And then from there, students move through the engineering design process, design, test, improve their own solutions. And then the very first lesson of each grade level, we actually introduce the engineering design process in a really methodical way through a simple task, so that teachers and students are both starting this experience with a shared foundation and understanding of what the engineering design process is. And then at the end of every lesson, we end with some nonfiction writing. Students pull it all together with a CER written response. That way that they're explaining their solution, what they built. And then each lesson also has a career connection. So we really want students to see and understand that the kind of problem solving that they're doing in these lessons is the same kind of work that real engineers do every day. So now that you've seen just kind of a big, broad overview of the design of this kit, I would love to walk you through one of my absolute favorite lessons that's in the K2 engineering kit as a way of demonstrating what it is that students and teachers are doing with this. And so this lesson that I'll be demonstrating for you comes from 2nd grade, and it's called Animal Rescue Bridge. So in this lesson, students are asked to design and build and test a bridge to help an animal safely cross a gap or a river using the engineering design process. And so the scientific phenomenon that is tied to standards in this specific lesson is about how water can change land. And so teachers are launching this lesson by presenting students with this problem, that there has been this flood and we need to engineer a solution to help an animal cross that new body of water. And so it's tied to that science, but it's also tied to this engineering driving question of why some bridges collapse while others stay strong. And so once students are really clear on the science and engineering that's present in this lesson, they get crystal clear as well on the design challenge and the constraints in front of them. So in this case, what they're doing is they're engineering a bridge to help an animal safely cross a river. And in this case, as I mentioned before, Ozobot Evo is acting as the animal that has to actually cross whatever bridge students create. And so you'll notice that the materials are listed here as well. These come in the kit. And this is what students have in front of them to create their bridge. And so, obviously part of engineering is that there are design constraints where you have only what is before you to build your bridge. And so in this case, it's cardstock, popsicle sticks, straws, toothpicks, pipe cleaners, aluminum foil. And so then after kind of understanding the task, the lesson plan guides teachers through the entire engineering design process. Teachers start the lesson by providing students with a planning sheet where they actually sketch out what it is that they think that they'll build. And then they actually get their materials. They build a color code program for Evo to cross the bridge. And of course, there is a great deal of testing and improving. Very few designs work the first time, and so that's a huge part of the lesson. We've also included several extension questions in each lesson, and those are really there for exactly what extensions are meant for. Teachers can pull from them whenever it makes the most sense to help students to really push their learning. So now I will show you a sample video of what students have built for this particular lesson. So you can see in that video that Evo is the actual animal there, and students kind of created a little animal costume for students. So it's really fun because after that, of course, there's this big, wonderful moment where students can share what they've created. And teachers have so much flexibility in how it is that students share. They can really hone in on the nonfiction writing component, or they can turn it into a whole class presentation. We've had several schools reach out who are using their engineering kit builds as part of their family STEAM nights. So the possibilities are really endless. A couple of tools that I want to call out that are present for teachers in this kit. There are many, many color code tracks in there for students to run Evo over. And there's also several editor share codes for the programming that is done in the Ozobot editor. There are student design sheets, which is just like a really consistent lesson agnostic template for students to use in their planning. And then there is a photo of every single sample build in the whole kit. So the pictures are there as a guide to teachers to kind of see an example of what students could be building for each lesson. So that's an example of some of those photos of what students could be building. So you see there in that one that Evo this is for an earthquake design, and then the other one is for building a green city. Additionally, in the engineering kits, we've included 30 task cards as 30 more activities for students to do using the provided materials and Evo. They're completely separate for the lesson plans, and each card is really its own mini design challenge. We really created these to be tasks that students can do independently without needing a lot of teacher whole group instruction. So they can be just a quick activity. They can be used in stations. They can be used as like a fun Friday activity, or they can be handed to early finishers who just require an extra challenge. And that is what I have to share about the engineering kit. So I'm going to pause for a moment and see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Michaela. While people are maybe thinking of some questions, I'm amazed by all these great things in this kit. I love that they're standards aligned. I myself, who's a former teacher, loves the EDP, engineering design process. It really gives the kids a way to be creative in many ways. And so you guys have a lot of great stuff in these kits, and I can see why the buzz and excitement is there with teachers getting their hands on.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, the EDP is just so fascinating because it really is what students create. No two designs are alike. And
Exactly.
so you walk around the classroom and it never ceases to amaze me what students come up with like
Yes.
some pretty basic materials when
And
they're
like
a
you
little.
said, yeah, and like you said, if kids do fail, which we do want them to fail so they can learn, but if they are successful, I like the improving. Could you make it with less materials? So it's not as expensive, or could you make it, in a quicker way? I mean, there's always ways to improve it and retest it, which is a favorite part of mine of the engineering design process.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Um, we don't have any comments or questions yet in the chat box. So if you do want to continue, you're more than welcome, everyone, to lock in those questions, and we can definitely get back to them. So,
Awesome. Sounds great. All right.
yeah.
So I will keep going here and talk next about the Math Fluency Kit. So our Math Fluency Kit gives students grade level and standards aligned activities that strengthen foundational math skills. So this is really intended as supplemental practice to any elementary core math curriculum. And this idea for the Math Fluency Kit was crowdsourced by teachers who really saw the engagement that Ozobot brings as a solution to a huge problem that they were facing. Math fluency, as we all know, is one of the most important skills to build in the early grades. And it's also the hardest to teach in a way that transfers to new challenges, that stays sticky for students as they move on to harder math. And it's really challenging to catch students up. And so the idea behind this kit is that using Evo and Ari alongside math manipulatives, students can practice their math. And it's designed, again, just like engineering, for a small group dynamic, for an intervention dynamic, or even just a fun way for the whole class to culminate a week of math instruction on a specific skill. So the core elements of these lessons is we use the CRA model, concrete representational abstract, at the heart of this design. So if you're familiar with this concept, then you will see it living and breathing in these lessons. Students move between using the manipulatives that are in the kit to more abstract reasoning with numbers and symbols and equations. Every lesson is standards aligned and tied to a very specific fluency goal with really, really clear connections to prerequisite skills. I'll point that out in the next couple of slides with the lesson. When we designed this kit, we actually consulted with several elementary math experts to help us identify the most critical math fluency skills to target at every grade level. We wanted to focus on those that were the hardest to master and the most essential for students. And so each lesson includes a color code track. So unlike the engineering kit, where students, a few of the lessons do involve block-based programming, all of these lessons are color coding. And that is because we really wanted the math to be the front and center and not have students thinking about, what kind of a program they were going to build in the Ozobot editor. So students are using color codes to model their thinking, and they're like watching the robot do, what they've coded it to do to reinforce mathematical precision, and really keeping their math practice active. So now I will get into a sample lesson from our K2 Math Fluency Guide. This comes from first grade, and it is called Compare Two-Digit Numbers. So the objective for this lesson is exactly as the title suggests. Students are comparing two-digit numbers by analyzing the tens and ones digits, and then they're programming Ozobot to follow the correct comparison path by using color codes. So as I mentioned before, each lesson starts with a skill overview that really just kind of roots the facilitator, the teacher, the instructor in this skill itself. So like, what did students learn in kindergarten to set them up for success in understanding this skill? And like, why does it matter at all? The reason that we chose to include information like this is because we know that oftentimes the main classroom teacher is not the person who is polling small groups to do practice math. It might be a student teacher. It might be a paraprofessional. These might be taking place in an after-school program with someone who is not a math expert. And we really wanted to design this curriculum so that any adult facilitator could feel like they had the mathematical knowledge that they needed to support students through this skill. So the get ready section of each lesson is where the math manipulatives are used. So in the case of this lesson, students are using the ones cubes and the 10 rods, and they're physically building numbers the way that they do typically with base 10 rods and ones cubes. So this stage is really important because it helps turn something like two-digit numbers into something more concrete that students can really see. And then after that stage is the model and try it together phase. And that is where Ozobot comes into play. So this section starts with a teacher model of how Ozobot demonstrates a comparison problem. So I want to show you really quick on the next slide. This is an example of what this activity sheet looks like. So in this lesson, Ozobot is the character moving toward a party, and students have to determine which number is greater in order to choose the correct color code for Ozobot's path. So Ozobot won't get to the party if they haven't chosen the right color code. So the robot here, in this case, is adding motivation and engagement, but it's also providing students with immediate feedback because if students select the wrong symbol, it won't reach the finish. So then students can quickly adjust. So after modeling, the teachers move into a practice, the lesson moves into practice and apply. And this is where students work more independently, where they complete the task assigned to them after seeing that teacher model. We've also included extensions here, just as a recommendation for things that teachers can do if the small group ends early, or if students actually seem to get it really quickly, ways to kind of like further the learning. So a few other inclusions that I really want to point out that are near and dear to my teacher heart in here. The first is we've included an entire section on misconceptions and correction strategies. So what we wrote into these lessons is the most common misconceptions aligned to the math itself. And then we've highlighted the possible correction strategy for teachers to have. So again, this is here because number one, we know that it's best practice when you're teaching a core content like math to anticipate student misconceptions, to be ready for it as a teacher so that you can help students learn, right? And they're also here again because we want to set anybody up for success regardless of their previous experience and expertise in math instruction. We also have an alternative try it together section to provide just different approaches so that teachers can model the skill in multiple ways. We wanted to make sure that students had multiple entry points into the math here. And then finally, we also have a multilingual learner support section. So we've actually included in each lesson lesson-specific language supports to make sure that we're pulling out the academic math and making that academic mathematical language more explicit, and recommending very, very concrete strategies for teachers to support their multilingual learners that might be a part of this lesson. So that's a look at how one lesson comes together. And now I want to kind of share the teacher tools that are present that I haven't mentioned yet. So first of all, each lesson is fully scripted, giving clear guidance on what to say and do so that even a brand new teacher can confidently lead these groups. Of course, veteran and more experienced teachers or teachers who don't like scripting don't have to use it, but it's there if they need it. We've also included ready-made model tracks that teachers can use to demonstrate the skill. So the color code track that teachers use for their model is different from the one that they'll then hand to students to do. And so the teacher can always kind of have a really clean example to show without giving away the answers to what students will later be doing. We've also included solution tracks in the appendix so that teachers don't have to run through every student track ahead of time. They can focus on the facilitation and just like have a quick reference to what the students' color code tracks should look like at the end. And finally, I just have to point out, and if you know Ozobot, you know what a big deal this is. We have so many color code tracks in this teacher guide. There are more than 40 plus extensions. That there's just plenty of variety for teachers to choose from to keep the learning fresh, and just to have a lot of options for color code tracks to use with math. So here's some examples of all those things. So we know how essential math fluency is, especially in the early years. And so we just really wanted to emphasize how important this tool can be for students learning their math. So we know that manipulatives deepen understanding. Studies show time and again that learners retain and transfer skills much more effectively when they are able to start with a concrete object. So that's why we decided to keep manipulatives as part of this kit. We also know that embodied learning boosts reasoning. So that physical interaction with the robot, with the color coding, strengthens mathematical thinking, it strengthens problem solving, and of course, as I mentioned before, it makes the math more sticky, more memorable. And Ozobot just really brings this math to life for students. You know, if you know, when the Ozobots come out, students' faces just immediately light up because the joy that is sparked when students can, you know, run Evo or Ari on the track and it lights up, it just adds such a level of joy that we wanted to make sure we were bringing to something that can be really challenging for students. And we just really wanted to make sure that we took an evidence-based approach to this curricular design. We know that embodied cognition studies confirm that when you're using movement and physical interaction, math learning is bolstered so much. So that is what I have to share today about our math kit, and I'm ready to take any questions.
Thank you, Michaela. This is all great things. I love how, I mean, it's a true testament speaking to teachers with all of the, you know, having the extensions. I love the multilingual support. We know how important that is to those learners, and just taking, you know, these math skills and making it more memorable, like you said, making it fun, using the Ozobots, and being able to do it during intervention or whole group instruction or small group instruction, just a lot of different ways to differentiate using these math kits. It's all great stuff. Very good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited about it. And we just love being able to have a way for teachers to like have a back pocket supplement to their math. So
Absolutely.
We're super excited about this.
Well, and just how everything's laid out, how you have your standards, going back to the engineering design process, everything for the teachers all ready to open up and immediately start using. Because we know time is of the essence for teachers, and it's hard sometimes to get everything you need to get in one school day.
Yeah, I know. When we were talking, it's funny, our team was saying like, let's just make what we wish we had when we were in the
And
classroom.
I think you've nailed it. I think it's pretty spot on.
Well, thank
Speaking of
you.
time, when you do go through a math lesson, like the first grade lesson that you shared with us, it seems though you can pretty much be flexible with the timing of the lesson. How long would you say is a lesson typically if you were working in a small group or doing an intervention with a couple of students?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good question because, like, sometimes in a small group you have 20 minutes and
Correct.
sometimes you have 40,
Yes.
but probably more often than not you have 20, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we deliberately didn't say, this lesson takes this long. I think
Sure.
that obviously, if you really truly only have 20 minutes, there are parts that you have to like move more
Sure.
quickly through. You might make the decision to not do as much with the manipulatives and just get straight to the color coding.
I love
You
it.
might make the decision to not do the model or have your model be like the first problem. It is incredibly flexible, like you said, for like, and I think to do 20 minutes, you have to cut some things. Whereas I think if you were using, teaching the lesson in its entirety, going through all the phases, I think it's probably about a 40-minute lesson.
Okay. And I love that because, like you said, we don't sometimes know how much time we're given, and sometimes we have to be
Yeah.
flexible if a student, needs a few minutes. So I love that it's a very flexible. You've got it scripted for those who need those questions because sometimes you had a substitute come in and they don't know the education lingo and kind of need that script.
Yeah,
Others,
that's
you've
right.
got veteran teachers who are on it and want to do it their own way. So I think all that stuff.
Yeah, and I will say too that one of the teachers who we consulted on designing this curriculum, her real intention is to use this kit and the lessons in this kit to immediately follow a number talk, a math number talk, right? And so, she said, I want to do a number talk on comparing two-digit numbers and then immediately move into practice with Ozobot. And I do think that, like, I love that use case, first of all.
Yes,
It's one that I would have never thought of. And so I think if that's the case, you wouldn't do the whole like get ready,
correct.
remember the skill, because you've just been doing that with your number talk.
I love it.
And so, yeah, it really is like anything you want it to be.
I love that. Just, I have to ask any challenges that, that have teachers come across that, or modifications or
That's
accommodations that
such
you
a
could.
good question. I think that one of the challenges that we see a lot, and like because especially with K to 2, is that some like color coding is so fun, and sometimes it is so hard.
Yeah.
And
I
if you
was
know,
wondering if you were gonna go down that route.
yeah, if you've taught that grade,
Yes.
sometimes just having them get their grip right is enough
Sure.
of a challenge. And so then coloring in the codes, filling in those little boxes,
Yeah.
and it can really lead. I think that it really can lead to frustration that is not productive for students at times. And so actually, I think that's the biggest challenge that we run into, testing this product and also just in other, feedback that we hear from teachers. So we
And
actually
I can
brought
see
back,
that. I mean, I have a first grader myself and,
yeah,
it's practice and it's good fine motor skills to get the marker in the hand. And I've also seen some of the sticker options that Ozobot has. So I know that could be an accommodation if you do have a child that needs to get extra assistance in the fine motor skills is using the sticker color coded.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So yeah, exactly. The stickers we brought back, we took them away for a while. We
Oh,
didn't have them as a
okay.
product for a long time, but we just brought them back, and we include a pack of stickers in every Math Fluency Kit
Great.
uh,
Okay.
for that reason. Because I think
That's
it's like
awesome.
when you're sitting with students, you want to give them a chance, right?
Yes.
You want to give them a chance with the markers, and most kids kind of figure it out and they get to that. But you're gonna always have. I think
Yeah.
I teach pretty regularly. We were talking before we started. I teach pretty regularly with my classroom set of Evos, and there's always at least one or two
Yes.
in every class who it's just like, all right, where's my stickers?
Right.
Where's my magnets? Let's and then
Yes,
like
the magnets too are I think
yeah,
a great
it's
option.
yeah. So I would say that's the biggest challenge, and we've kind of accounted for that
I was
here.
just gonna say you've noticed the challenge, you've listened to teachers, and it really I love how Ozobot has really thought of everything, the magnets, the stickers, the color code, so really, again, the challenge has been solved with the magnets and the stickers, so
Yeah,
thank you
yeah, for
so much.
sure.
I'm looking at our comments here today, and we've put in to the chat our STEM Education Works website. So for anybody that would love to check out Ozobot's products and their kits, we too are very excited here with STEM Education Works partnering with you, and really appreciate your time. Love everything you had to say today. And again, it's always great listening to teachers speak to teachers, because we know it's rough in the education world, and we're so thankful for those who are in the trenches and doing it. And so we thank you.
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we can go ahead and wrap up since we don't have any questions.
All
And
right.
feel free, for those who are joining us today or who will listen to the recording, to email us, and we'd love to get back to you and answer any questions.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Michaela.